Antony Green, welcome.
Hello.
Now, before we talk about what the polls are telling us, just remind us what the actual numbers would be for victory for either side.
Well, Labor goes into the election with 78 seats, the Coalition with 57. And there's a few crossbenchers who are ex-Coalition, which they'll be trying to win those seats back. And there's 15 members on the crossbench. There's one fewer seat in this parliament. Labor loses its majority if it loses 3 seats, which is a swing of about 1%. For the Coalition to finish with more seats than Labor, it's a swing of about 3.5%. And for the Coalition to achieve majority government in their own right, it's about over 5%. The difficulty is that with so many crossbenchers, with the potential for crossbenchers to be picking up seats off the two major parties, it's a bit hard to be very firm about what those swings are, is that politics is not just a two-sided game anymore. There's a significant number of voters, nearly as many as voted for the two major blocs last time. There's nearly as many voters who vote for somebody else these days.
And looking at that phenomenon, do you anticipate it will be further confirmed by results tomorrow night?
I think it is. Look, Australian parties have followed an international trend of losing support. I think it's a trend that's been delayed in Australia because of compulsory voting. That's buttressed the major parties over the years. But in the last 2 decades, of other countries have seen declines in turnout, and that's been viewed as a sign of political disengagement. I think in Australia, because of compulsory voting, what we see, that disengagement turns up in just voting for other parties. And then it feeds back to the middle with preferential voting. But the number of votes for others has got so high, 31% at the last election, that no longer do we see 152 party contests across the country. Last time it was only 123. There were 27 contests that didn't involve both the Labor and Liberal Party. And that's why politics and calling elections has got more complex.
Well, that was my question. How much more difficult does that make your job tomorrow night?
It made it particularly difficult last time because there was such a breakthrough with so many of these seats. This time, there's all those Teal independents and other community independents and Greens and minor parties. We have history of them standing this time. Last time we didn't. So it'll be slightly easier in that sense. But having done Queensland and Western Australian elections in last year, there's the two complexities that come out of the way voting is going at the moment is one, that declining major vote means that you get preferences going all over the place. And the second is the surge in pre-poll voting means that they take longer to come in on election night, and they often behave quite differently from on-the-day votes. I don't know why it works that way, but as a trend, Labor does better on the day and the Coalition does better on the pre-poll. But it's not a consistent pattern of the difference between the two. So, I mean, if we see Labor on, just say the last election, Labor polled 53.7% of the two-party preferred, but they finished at 52.1. We are factoring in on election night that Labor's vote will drop 1.6 once we add the pre-polls. But if it drops further, you know, we just have to be cautious with those early predictions.
So everyone has to go cautiously in the early hours. So just come back to where we stand now. People will have heard 2 things, that the polls are all suggesting the government is in a strong position, at least to achieve minority government. But at the same time, they'll be hearing the opposition leader say there's a whole load of quiet, even angry Australians out there who are going to turn that around, who are going to change that outcome. Are there 10 seats available for Peter Dutton tomorrow?
I think that's tough. They were banking on receiving a good number in Victoria, and it appears that might have subsided, the anger against Labor. It's still there against the state government, but it may have subsided against the Commonwealth government. In New South Wales, you've got a few seats like Gilmore and Bennelong, which are sitting on tiny margins. But some of the seats they were talking about on 5 and 10% in New South Wales and Victoria, there seem to be less talk of them, or if there is talk, I mean, for instance, there's talk of seats in Western Melbourne. They've all got margins of over 10%. Labor could suffer a big swing in those seats and still hold them. It's the marginal seats where it's determined. So all the numbers the Coalition need are in the 2 big states. They're not going to make many gains in Queensland. Labor doesn't hold many seats in Queensland. Labor may gain seats in Queensland. There's a seat or 2 in Tasmania and South Australia. Western Australia, if it turns sour for Labor, there's maybe 3 or 4 seats the Coalition could win. But as the campaign has gone on, it's looked tougher for the Coalition to get enough seats, and it doesn't look like there's enough. They've got to be close to Labor to make the crossbench consider to back a minority Coalition government.
I look forward to spending the evening with you tomorrow. In the meantime, Antony, thank you.
Thank you.